welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I have some fun crafts for you today. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today we'll be working on some DIY spring crafts, a little vintage, a little farmhouse, but let's get started with project number 1. For this project, I'll be using lots of fabrics. Now, I wanted a grain sack fabric, but I didn't have any. I was out, so I chose this kind of textured fabric I got at Hobby Lobby. And then these 3 fabrics we'll be making for our carrots. Now, you could just choose all one color, but I thought it would be fun to have the different textures for our 3 carrots. And then I'll be using some of this ribbon from Walmart, I believe I got last year during springtime. And this is a placemat. We're going to be using just a little bit of it because it's going to tie in with our cute little vintage tag. And then these are going to be for our quote and our tag on our bag. And of course, I'll be bringing in some optional batting if you want. You don't have to use it. I get it at Walmart by the bag or by the yard. Now, the pattern I'm going to be using is the old pattern we got last year. And I will have the link to my blog in the description box where you can find this pattern, quote, etc. for the projects today. This is the original pattern. So you'll get that original pattern and you're just going to cut down about 1 inch on one side. That's it. I didn't feel the need to redraw it. I just thought I'd tell you. Or you don't have to. You could leave it a little bit bigger, okay? So what I'm going to do, I've got the other carrots done. I'm going to use just one of the fabrics here to make one carrot. You're going to need 2 pieces for each side of the carrot. So 2 pieces of fabric, 2 pieces of batting if you want the batting. I'm just cutting them out at the same time. Now you're going to take, if you're using batting, put the 2 pieces in between the 2 pieces of fabric, of course. If you're a gluer and use batting, glue your batting to one side of your fabric and then glue your batting to the other side of the fabric. And then you're going to glue it along the edge in between the 2 pieces of batting and put it together. The top is open. If you're only using fabric, just along the edge between the 2 pieces of fabric. All right? Now, if you're sewing and you're using batting, it's the same concept, but you're just going to sandwich the batting between the 2 fabric and sew along the edge. You don't have to glue them together or anything like that. Or if you're only using fabric, just put them together and sew along the 2 long sides, leaving that short side at the top open, okay, because we want to stuff our carrot. I just like to use the batting. It gives it a little bit of a country look, all right? Those of you that might be new to my channel. And then you're just going to stuff your carrot. And I am going to stuff it about 3/4 of the way up. I probably leave at least 2 inches from the top. I'll show you that here in a minute. There we go, just about 2 inches from the top. We need room for our greenery. Now for the greenery, I'm going to use this ribbon. I'm cutting it about 11 inches long. Okay, you can use just regular greenery from Dollar Tree or something like that. I'm going to cut it in half so they're really wide. It's about a 2.5 inch wide ribbon. If you'll remember when we did our project last time and made some cute little carrots for our banner, this is the same ribbon. And we're going to do the same type of process with the greenery as we did on the garland. Now, as you can see, both of these ribbons we cut in half, and on this one, I cut the wire off. We're going to add wire. So you can use these pieces to sandwich your wire together, or as I'm going to do on one side, use a little bit of this placemat I bought so that it will match with my ribbon later. All right, now whether you're a gluer or a sewer, okay, you're going to cut a piece of wire. This is just real flexible. The length of your ribbon, which is the 11 inches, and then glue your wire down. And if you just want to glue it all, glue your wire down and then fully glue your 2 pieces of ribbon, fabric, whatever you want together. I, as a sewer, once I glue just the wire down, all right, showing you to glue it all together, I'm going to come down, distress the edges, and I'm going to sew down each side of this and then sew down each side of this piece and this other piece just to add some texture here, okay? And again, I mean, you can use ribbon, you can use fabric, you can use regular greenery if you want, okay? It's your option. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut a short piece of twine and a long piece of twine, all right? The short piece is going to tie our greenery together. So you're just going to loop it like this, and the pieces that have the wire edging still on it, I'm going to kind of put it to the outside. And then, of course, the one with the wire in the middle, we're going to put in the middle like this. And you might choose I almost thought my pieces were a little long. You might want to maybe go even 9 or 10 inches. I should have said that at the beginning, but you're going to do this after you watch, right? And then take your short piece of twine and then just tie them together, all right? And then you're going to fit them down inside your bag. And then you're going to take that long piece of twine, your bag, your carrot, and then take that long piece of twine and then just, I go around it a couple of times so it's nice and tight, and then just tie a little bow in the middle. All right, and then when you're done, you have 3 cute little carrots, or as many carrots as you want. I'm going to do 3. All right, now we're going to work on our bag. All right, so my bag is about 10 inches wide and then about 11 inches long. And I know I left my carrots out, but our bag's going to be in the seam. So we put your pretty sides together, and we're going to sew along those 3 edges or glue. But before we do that, we want to add our cute little tag down here at the bottom. I will have a free printable for you. I have the PDF and the PNG, and then I'll list the font down below if you want to just do it yourself. And then I just cut it down to, you know, whatever size I thought I liked, and I would tell you that size, but I can't remember. I think it was like a 4x7 or something like that. Okay, maybe a 4x8. It's basically about 2 inches up from the bottom and then about 1 inch from each side. So that's going to tell me about a 4x9 size. 9 is the length. If you're a gluer, you're going to glue it down. And if you're a sewer, of course, you're going to sew it down. But before I do that, I'm just taking some sandpaper here and sanding along the edges because it very quickly and easily distresses and frays those edges. All right, so I started to sew this down and I got down 2 sides and I'm like, oh shoot, I think I want some batting under there. So now I'm coming to show you what I did. So I cut a piece of batting and I just cut it a little bit smaller. You can see the 2 edges where I started to sew. And so now I cut it smaller and I'm tucking it in there, and then I will finish sewing the other 2 edges. But if you want batting, add it in there before you glue or sew down your quote. So here's what mine looks like. I sewed around it 2 times to give it a little fun, and you can see how the batting just kind of lifts it up a little bit. All right, gotta move Bella over. Now I'm going to come in and we're going to work on getting our bag together. So pretty sides together, all right, matching up your seams. Sew around the 3 sides. If you're a sewer or if you're a gluer, glue around those 3 sides, leaving that top edge open. All right, here it is sewn. All right, top edge open. Now, couple options here. You can flip it right side out and you can leave it like this and go on with the next step, or you can square up the bottom like I'm going to do so it stands upright. If you leave it like this, you might want to put some weight in it, although I will anyway, but if you just do it like this, it's going to just fall over. So to square up the bottom, if you're a gluer, make sure your corners are out, nice and pointy. This is really easy, and I've showed this a lot of times, but we always get new viewers. So you're going to go to your corner if you're a gluer, and you're just going to poke that corner in. I know we poked it out, but poke it in. All right, and then it's the depth in it. I think I tried to measure for you about 3/4 inch depth. All right, and then you're just going to take your glue, and you're going to glue that in. And then you're going to turn around to the other side, and you're going to poke that in, the depth about 3/4 inch, and glue it. Now wait here. Us sewers are going to do our part. So I'm going to open this so it's wrong side out, and we're going to pull our fabric apart at the corners so we have like a triangle, and we're going to sew across about 3/4 inch down. All right, so we're going to end up with the same thing the gluers have, but we're sewing it from the other side. All right, pull it apart. So you got your corners out, and you make a little triangle looking area. Sew it across about 3/4 length. Now this is what we have. Gluers, you've got that little glued point. Both of us now are together, and you're just going to glue that little point down. All right, it's going to help strengthen the bag. Just glue it down. Try to match your seams. It's going to help strengthen the bag even more. I'm going to just pin it while the glue sets up, which is only about a minute. But gluers, you'll be able to feel that area where you glued it down, and so then you just fold it over and glue this part down. All right? Sewers, of course, we have the sew line. All right, when it's done, take your pins out if you stuck pins in it, and right side out, and you've got that nice little line there, whether you glued or sewed. And then you've got this nice little rectangle kind of look here. And then when you set it up, it'll just set right up. But I'm still going to add some rocks in it for just strength and stability. I like to layer with just a little, isn't Bella cute over there? Layer with just a little bit of cotton first, and then I've got a little bag of rocks here, and I'm going to lay it right in there. That way, if someone was to pick it up, if you give it away as a gift, they don't just feel rocks in the bottom. It's all cushioned by some stuffing, and then I'm going to stuff it about 3/4 full, I think. maybe half full, in between half and 3/4 full. And now we're going to work with our cute little vintage bunny here. I got this off Etsy, vintage printables. It was only a couple of dollars for 2 sheets of different like Peter Rabbit looking printables. All right, I'll have the link down below in my description box where you can find those. And I printed it out onto fabric. I will have a link in my blog how I printed onto fabric using my printer so that, you know, you can have that if you've not done it before. And here you can see on the underside of the carrot, remember the placemat? I'm going to bring that placemat fabric back in so that I can have a border underneath of the rabbit. So that's why I chose not to just use the same ribbon front and back, because I kind of wanted to make it so it just kind of gave it some fun in using the same fabric, I guess. Is that understandable? Anyway, I'm going to cut a piece of batting here because I want my bunny to kind of pop up. If you're a gluer, you can glue it all together. Of course, I sewed it all together. And later I'm going to add another little piece of fabric under it. I thought it was fun. But now I'm going to take some Distress Oxide ink in Vintage Photo and just my little dauber and ink around the bunny here. And you can see how it kind of put a halo around the image and popped our bunny up. And then I'm going to do the same thing on our Fresh Carrots quote tag, highlighting just around the edges. It's going to pop that writing up a little bit. Okay, and now we're ready to kind of start with putting our carrots in the bag. You can see I kind of made a hole in the stuffing, and just assemble your carrots how you want it. Kind of look to see how far down you want your carrots. Probably about half of the carrots of mine are, you know, in the bag. And now I know this looks funny because I started putting it all together, but then I decided I want to sew the top edge down a little bit because I liked this fringe on the fabric that was there. You know, the rough edge of the fabric had the fringe. If you're a gluer, you can fold it over and glue it down if you want, but I wanted to sew it to give it a little lip. And then I'm putting my carrots back down into the bag. And then I'm going to kind of glue my carrots in, even though they're just being glued to the stuffing, but it kind of helps hold them a little bit as well. And I'm gluing them into the stuffing and then kind of to each other. Okay. And then we'll go back to why I have all that stuff in the cotton, which you probably knew what it was. I was putting moss in, and then that's when I decided, no, wait, I want to sew my bag down. So now I'm adding a moss around the edges of the carrots. And then off camera, I'm going to go ahead and just glue the top of my bag to that moss a little bit so it just kind of all stays together, holds the moss and everything. And then I'm going to come back in with that Distress Oxide ink and Vintage Photo, Pet Bella a little bit, and add just a little bit of, you know, shadowing around the top of the bag, on the back, around the seams. Totally optional. All of this shadowing with the ink, totally optional. You don't have to do it on the tag, the carrots, the bunny, nothing. This as well as optional. I have black chalk paint mixed with water and my fan brush, and I love to add a little bit of texture by tapping the fan brush, which makes some splatters onto the bag, the quote area, the carrots, and I even do it on the vintage tag. All right, now I'm going to lay this down. I've got some rope from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to kind of come down a couple of, you know, inches right up under, maybe just an inch and a half, right up underneath that folded edge of my bag there, and just make a simple little knot. And now here is my tag. I decided I wanted a little bit more texture, of course, and I cut up a placemat I have here. I've used this before if you've been with me a while. I liked how the fringe kind of matched the fringe on the part of the bag where we folded it down. And then I've just got some ribbon here. I tied it into a simple bow. I'm going to just glue it at the top of the tag, bring in that green that's kind of on the picture and on the carrots and that kind of thing, the carrot tops. And then, of course, I have a little button I'm gluing on that has twine in it and a little pin here, and I'm just going to pin it to the top of our bag. Once I do that, I can take a breath. That makes this project complete. All right, time for another breath. Let's get talking and working in project number 2. So for this project, I got this frame at a thrift store. It's like $1.25. Off camera, I'm just going to sand it up as much as I can. Here's what that looks like. I left a little white on it because I was originally just going to leave it like that. And then I decided I wanted it darker and go for more of a vintage look. So I'm using this Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water, and I'm just painting it over the areas of exposed wood that I didn't leave some of the white paint. And I thought I'd leave white paint because I thought it'd look a little nice with just a little hint of that white paint showing underneath the black paint we're going to use once I distress it. I'm using Design Diary DIY chalk paint, little black dress, just doing one coat. And then of course I will sand it off camera to add that little bit of distressing. And after I distress it, I almost wished I hadn't left the white, but I did. And it's not bad because I at least only left a little white left exposed. But I wish I just sanded it all off. But it was really hard in those recesses, you know, where the frame goes inward toward the picture, so I had to leave some. Now what I want to do is kind of measure the backside to see how big of an area that I want to cut my fabric out of. If you look to the left, there's this placemat. That's what I just used on the little vintage bunny tag in our last project. I picked these up at a thrift store. I love the texture on them, but I'm just cutting enough. I don't need to fit the whole back area there. I'm just cutting it enough because I'm going to use this like my mat, right? You know, when you get framing, you have a mat, right, to put your artwork on. So I'm cutting it down the size I need, of course, somewhere around a 6 by 6, and you'll see why later. And then just like that, okay? Now here is another vintage print from Etsy that I printed out onto fabric. I will have the link down below to this printable as well. You get a ton. I thought it was just a couple of images. When I downloaded this, there was about, is this the one that had like 13 to 16 different images? It was crazy for $3. All just beautiful little images. And of course, as you can see, I'm cutting this down to about a 4 by 4, might have been 4.5, whatever, just so I have a little edging around it. Now I'm using Distress Oxide ink and gathered twigs. Now this and this stamp, this is an old stamp. I don't know if you can really find it anymore, but it's just a script stamp. And what I'm doing is, you know, stamping the script onto the image. And I thought I wanted this to look a little more vintage, just kind of like the bunny tag we just used. And it had some script in there. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just adding my own to give it a little bit more of that vintage look. Just inking a little corner of the stamp and pressing it where I want. And then I'm taking my sandpaper, kind of distressing around it to get that frayed a little bit. And then once we do that, I have some batting. Yes, I'm going to use some batting again, already pre-cut to fit behind. This time I remembered to cut it, so it lifts it up a little bit. I'm going to kind of show you here with the batting underneath. When I put it on the frame, do you see how it lifts it up? So that's why I put the batting underneath, but you don't have to. And right now what I'm going to do is glue that batting down a little bit, glue the image on top just a little bit, spot gluing. If you're a gluer, you glue it all the way down. But I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and kind of sew around the image a couple of times and then even onto the matting part of the fabric. And here's what that looks like, just to give it a little something. And now, yes, I'm going to bring in that black paint mixed with water. I'm going to cover up the little bunny's face because I don't want any splatter on that. And then I'm going to splatter it a little bit because I think it adds a little more texture and adds a little bit more of that vintage quality to it. All of this is optional, and you might not even like vintage. You don't have to go this route. You might just want a cute, you know, bunny image and frame it, and you're done. But here's what that looks like. All right, I love how this turned out. I just think it's adorable. And then what we're going to do is get it into our frame. So I'm going to make sure, you know, I've got it centered how I like it. And then, of course, using my Fabri-Tac glue here, get it glued down onto the back of the frame. All right, here we go with that. And then I want to cover the back. I'm not going to cover the whole thing. I've just got like a little 6 by 6 piece of cardboard here because the top and the bottom like curve inward. It would be way too hard to try to fit a piece to make it fit. So I'm just going to cover the fabric. Perfect, just like that, so it looks finished off. And now I want it, you can be done here, but I wanted to add a little bit more. You know I'm going to add more. So I've got these cute little mini eggs, and I'm going to add a little bit of mini eggs in the corner. I've got some Excelsior here. I almost thought, is that the right name? I'm going to add it in around the eggs. And then I'm going to add it in the floral area that I'm going to add here. I've got a bow here I made out of just some of this crochet ribbon. I got this at Dollar Tree. I'm going to add a little bow down here. It's kind of a sweet vintage frame, I guess. Adding a little bit more of this Excelsior here. I think I got this at, am I even calling it the right name? Why does it sound funny to me? If it's wrong, I apologize. I got it at, I believe, Joann's or Hobby Lobby. And then this is just a little bit of actual vintage floral trim. I'm gluing this down, adding texture, and then I'm going to come in with just a bunch of different paper flowers that I have in my stash. You can get paper flowers at Dollar Tree, if your Joann's is still open, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, and I'm just adding in different colors and things that match with the image, different types of florals, so that gives it, a nice, it's not all the same flower. It gives it a nice variety here. Adding in some of these paper leaves that came with some of the flowers because it matches the greenery in the photo itself. And just do how you want to do here. You could just add a bow and be done. You don't, like I said, you don't have to add anything, but I tried to just give it a little bit more of a sweet vintage look. I haven't done vintage in a while, and it still has the farmhouse feel, rustic look with the distress of the frame, the country look with the fabrics. I don't know, it just kind of blends all this together, and so I think it looks really pretty. And I don't have enough flowers. I keep adding more flowers. All right, get a couple more in here. And now I want to just add in a little bit more Excelsior. Thought it needed a little bit more. Grab some tweezers to kind of get this poked in here. And once I do that, I can take another breath and quit talking. That makes this project complete. So I hope you enjoyed both of these projects. One is a little farmhouse, one is a little vintage farmhouse, rustic, whatever you want to call it. But, each different, but I think each are both beautiful and fun to create. And I hope easy enough for you that you want to recreate it for your home in your style and your beautiful crafting talent. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know which one you'd like to make right now. Please give this video a thumbs up. And if you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out, you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another project from me. Now, before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. In stressful conflicts, it can be difficult to get our voices heard and maintain peace, all while trying to rely on our own wisdom to carry us through. Also, within conflicts, if a resolution isn't immediately found, bitterness and anger tend to rise, and more than likely, a brick wall will begin its foundation. Throughout the conflict, however, we must trust in God's wisdom and guidance to help us so that we don't continue building that wall between us and them. When we place our faith in what God wants us to say and how God wants us to act versus self-reliance, the tension in the room will become less hostile. By definition, a relationship from a human perspective is a connection. It's the way in which two or more people regard and behave toward each other. It's characterized as supporting one another and lifting each other up. By definition, a relationship from God's perspective is a personal connection with Him. It's the way in which we bond with Him. It's characterized as having honest communication with Him and loving Him. Coincidentally, both of these relationships have commonality with each other. Together, they have attributes that are characterized by acceptance and trust in each other. Our relationship with Jesus, our purpose and belief in Him should be our motivating force during the conflict so that we outwardly display His grace. Our words and actions should be rooted in God's guidance and wisdom, knowing that in the end, all things will work together for good according to His purpose. In the Bible, the book of Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 15, now this is the Passion Translation version, it states, "But instead we will remain strong and always sincere in our love as we express the truth. All our direction and ministries will flow from Christ and lead us deeper into Him, the anointed head of His body, the church." With all this said, when we find ourselves in these types of stressful situations, here's what to remember. Be in prayer that the other people involved will have ears to hear what God is trying to say. Act with respect. Be quick to listen, slow to anger, and slow to respond so that we speak with words that do not intensify the conflict. Our hearts also need to be at rest in what God has for us because trusting He will give us the confidence we need to stand up with His truth and gain a peaceful resolution. And always remember, God is in control of the situation. Trying to rely on ourselves to get through this, it won't work. But when we rely on God, walls will be torn down and then healing can begin. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.